So if you've made it this far in this tutorial series, I assume that you've completed the eyes. And with the eyes complete, your drawing probably has some semblance of humanity now, and that's usually a good thing. The next step is filling out the rest of the face, and at the end of this video, you can make as many bald memes as you want. There aren't as many direct instructions for this video other than the lips, so there might be points where you feel a bit lost and confused. And if you're wondering if there's a way to alleviate that feeling, well, anyway, let's just get started. Now you're going to find it helpful to group your layers before painting, so in this case I would shift click every layer you have, starting from the brows to the eyelashes, depending on which one's on top, all the way down to the face layer, which is down here. Shift click those to select all the layers, and then while you're holding down shift you can click this new group button right here, and this will put your face into a nice tidy group for you to work on. You can also just press the group button and move your layers in and out manually. But for now, we'll just keep it organized in this group. Next, we're going to go onto the face layer where we'll be doing most of our adjustments today. The very vast majority of this painting, we're going to want to use this soft round brush. I'm using this one right here. I believe all three of these are the same. Depending on what brush packs you have, this might vary, but I think if you have the Deharme brush, you will probably have these. These might be stock brushes too, I don't really know. So for the rest of today's video, we're going to be talking about how to do the brows, then the mouth, and then we're going to do the rest of the face. And that should cover all of it, so I'm just going to let the Twitch clip roll. So in order to shade the brows, I erased some of the edges to give it a bit of a finer look. It's more gentle and smudged it around. Then I took the hairbrush that we discussed in earlier videos and just kind of drew it out in the direction of an eyebrow. If you don't know the direction of an eyebrow, I'll throw that up here. And then I just went over a little bit darker and darker until it had some volume. Added some strays to each end to make it look a little bit more gradual, and then hit it again with a light eraser just to make it look soft. Next is a little bit of light shading on the face because I'm a liar and I did things out of order. This is a really light color, it's almost white. Just go over it a little bit to help frame your reference and make sure you don't go too dark with everything. Next I'm hitting it with a little bit of dark, kind of almost a purpley shade, with a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, just in the areas that need it most. Specifically those under eye areas and around the edges of the face. Again, the smudge tool is your best friend if your computer can handle it. With that, it's good enough to move on, I think. I think we'll probably start with the lips next. So before we start with the mouth, I want to make sure that everybody understands the color gradation required for these lips, because I think mouths are some of the hardest parts of drawing, especially the lips and teeth area. So let's just change this to black and white so everyone can see the colors clearly. As you can see, the darkest areas are going to be here, and just kind of along this lower lip area. That's really going to give it a lot of definition. And on the other hand, you're going to have your lightest areas here on this upper lip right here, as well as this small patch of the lower lip. It kind of goes around a straight line. So I'll roll the clip now and we can talk about how that works. Hopefully Slurpy Mouth Olivia helps you understand a little bit about the way lips work. So I lied, actually the next part of the video is about teeth, and I think it's important to talk about how teeth are going to work, because if you don't get a good pair of teeth in your drawing, you're going to end up with a not so pretty drawing, and we don't want it to look that way after getting this far. So it's important to note that obviously each tooth is its own separate division, so you want to draw a line, maybe not that heavy, maybe a little bit lighter, something like that. And that will help make it clear which tooth is which. As you get closer to the back of the mouth, or rather away from the light source, your teeth are going to get a little bit darker. Each tooth is still its own surface, so we have to keep in mind that. So the end of each tooth is going to be a little bit darker than the gradient going around it. That's important to note. The front of each tooth is going to be a little bit lighter than what we have. And here and there, it depends on what tooth it is, because some teeth are round and some teeth are flat, but that's something to keep in mind. Again, the smudge tool is always your best friend in almost everything I do. And then at the very end, this is a finishing touch for some teeth. You can take a fully white brush and just dab some shine onto each tooth, and there you go. That's some good teeth, and I think you'll see that in the video that we do. So full speed ahead with Slurpy Mouth Olivia's blue and red colors, if you remember those. Dark where it's supposed to be, light where it's supposed to be. Next we're going to start shading some of the teeth. All of the rules I just stated for the teeth apply, but they're very subtle here, so the color gradient needs to be very barely noticeable from light to dark, otherwise you're going to end up with teeth that really stick out too much in this picture, and we don't really want that either. Some of the teeth near the back can be painted a little bit darker than the ones in the front, and we're going to put our little shinies right there. So again, if you're not really sure where to put the shinies, just follow where mine are and you should be good to go. Next we're back to working on the lips. It's important to note that the lips have a texture. If you look at anybody's lips, especially when their mouth is kind of in this closed, neutral position, there are definitely lines going all the way down, and I really tried to capture that, and I think that's really going to help in bringing the lips to life and making them look natural. Because this is sort of like a semi-matte lipstick, we need to be a bit more judicious about where we put the light. Unlike some really glossy lipsticks, we can't just put shine anywhere we want. We kind of have to layer it in between those, as I mentioned, striations on the lip, I guess they're called, I don't know. Anyway, just follow my pattern if you want. Just make sure you're not adding too much light where it isn't supposed to be, and there you go, the lips are done. So before we move on to the next part of the video, you're going to want to work with the face layer that we created here. You're going to want to make a new layer, put it on top of the face layer, maybe anything you want. Use that Control-Alt-G method I described to make sure it doesn't leave the face layer, and you're going to want to set this to multiply. What multiply does is it takes the same color you have and I don't really know what it does. It just makes things darker, and I think that's good. It preserves some of the colors you have underneath the layer instead of painting on top. So for example, if I use the same color that I have here, but it's on multiply, this layer is a lot darker now. I hope you're not as sick of this song as I am yet. Anyway, once you have your multiply layer, just go over the darkest areas again. Give them a little bit more of a dramatic flair with the darker colors. So the area under the hair, under the eyebrows, and sort of the area of the nose. Nose bridge needs to be smudged out a little bit, but those lines next to the nostrils, they can be dark. Next, I'd make another layer that covers some of the lighter colors on top. So put that on top of the dark layer. This should be almost pure white. Just highlight some of the areas like the cheeks, the forehead, and the bridge of the nose, just to help bring out the curves of the face a little bit more. The more dark and the more light you use, the more realistic it'll look. Well, to a point. If you go too far, it ends up looking like a cartoon. So it's important to strike that balance. It's important to get some dark areas right above the lip, or I guess they call it the philtrum, and right around the corners of the mouth. Next, we add a shiny layer, similar to the eyes. You just take white and you kind of put it wherever you feel like the picture needs it. Smudge it out to look a little bit more realistic. Make sure you do it in moderation. Again, you can just follow what I do. So I focused on the bridge of the nose, the cheeks, and right above the lip, as well as some area about the chin. I also started working on the neck, so I put a lot of dark shadows next to the hair. And I also accentuated some of the, I guess it's the bones in the neck. Is it a muscle? I don't know. Anyway, the center of your neck kind of sticks out a little bit. It's not an Adam's apple, it's just the way the anatomy works. So I'd make sure that you put a little bit of shadow there just to show that that exists. And again, everything can be changed. Nothing is ever set in stone with art, so I made some final changes here. I added a little bit extra shading, I added a little bit more color correcting. Like I had realized I made the face too bright, so I just darkened the whole thing with the brightness adjustment layer. I also added another layer of red. So I added a little bit more red to the makeup area around the eyes. I also added some rosiness to the cheeks and some red to the nose. This does make a pretty pronounced difference and helps bring some life to it. So you can do that if you want. You don't have to. I put that right above the face layer underneath that multiply shadow layer. So if you want to do that, you can. Anyway, just add some volume to the brows, add a little bit more shine. I'm gonna let the rest of the clip play out now. So despite this being probably one of the hardest parts of the entire drawing process, this was actually the shortest video I ever made. Maybe I'm getting lazy, maybe you guys are getting sick of me. I don't know which one it is, but here we are. If you have strong feelings either way, let me know. Twitch, Twitter, hashtag. Like I said before, there's really not a good way to teach how to specifically draw the face. You kind of just have to learn it with experience. Pointing out the dark and the light areas does help. But that's really all I can do for you guys at this point, and I hope that helps a little bit. Sometimes when you work on a piece for too long or you stare at it for too long, you start to think that it looks kind of uglier, or maybe you look uglier, or maybe everything around you in the world is becoming uglier. And when things like this happen, I would encourage everyone to keep going, because art always looks bad until it looks good, unless you're living some sort of Dorian Gray-esque nightmare, in which case the only solution is